Hey folks, first of all, sorry for the lighting. I haven't recorded a video in quite some time and I couldn't find the lights I normally use. So I'm doing it with a flashlight. So I got something. I've been sitting on this for a couple of weeks. I just keep forgetting to make this. Gonna do an unboxing video. Got something here from Dumb Industries and Jackie Naaman Jones. Let's open this sucker up. All right. Oh. Come on. There we go. That part of the knife's a little dull. I always see people doing unboxing videos with scissors. I have so many pocket knives that have been given to me over the years. I've got one in 4 different rooms. I've got 4 different ones, each in a different room of the house. And I've got one on my keychain. All right, there we go. Hopefully I don't need the knife anymore. We'll set it over there. All right, let's see first here. Hey, Manos, the Hands of Fate. Andrew, thanks you so much for your order. Enjoy your Torgo staff. The master approves. Jackie Naaman Jones. So that pretty much buried the lead right there, and you know now what this is. So let's see here. Okay, this side up. Top A, B. Set that over here. The paper. This will be the bottom, because stopper. I don't know if that makes it B or a different one, because there's another piece here. This says C, up. So I'm going to assume, okay, yes, I'm going to very much assume that C is the bottom. Oh, check that out. That's the topper. Set that over here just to make sure. It feels like there might be something else in the bottom of the box, and it is more paper. All right. Okay. So this immediately tells me which piece is which. This is the top. This is obviously the bottom. This will be the middle. All right. With a snug fit. All right, and then finally, check that out. Oh, we're gonna have to stand up for this, aren't we? Okay, that is much taller than I can fit on this while I'm sitting down. So let's pause this and stand up. Oh, that is really cool. Let's see, I can't get the camera far enough away. Very awesome. I've got some ideas. So I hit a snag. I was procrastinating on editing the video, and you know, life happens when you're procrastinating, things like that. So things were a little behind schedule. And then the other night there was a storm, and yeah, the thunderclap woke me up in the middle of the night, which fine. And then from the other room, which was this room, I heard a loud smacking noise, like something had fallen. And there was kind of a cracking noise to it, and well, yeah, the headpiece of the staff broke. So things are gonna have to change. I've got an idea though. We can fix this. Okay, so I'm gonna try my best to put this back together. First thing I've done, I kind of roughed out the groove that the fingers can sit in here. So hopefully that'll work. We'll see. Next, I'm gonna take a couple kebab skewers and a little bit of painter's tape. And I'm gonna try my best to set up a primitive reinforcement here. Maybe this will work, maybe it won't. I've done things. I'm trying to get on fingers here. Hopefully I can keep from falling. Sorry, my arms are blocking the view. It's hard to set it up right here, so okay. I'll have to set there without falling down. I can tape on there and here. One time. You know what, it's okay, I'm gonna get one more on the underside. In between. There we go. It's gonna be a little more difficult to get the one first. Let's take through. Here we go. Alright. Like that. Let's see. Right, now it's too long this way. Let's see how far the menu. Not these anymore. Let's take wires. Alright, that's fair. Okay. Knock it out. Everything's always lining up with the glue. Now we'll stick the glue to that thing. Alright. I'm gonna get one shot at this. It's 60-second Loctite universal glue. It says it's repositionable for about 15 seconds. So we'll see how this goes. All right. Down a layer. Down one. A layer. All right, about 15 seconds. Get this in. Where I need to be before I start to reload. Okay. And that's where it needs to be. Ah, it's right. Come on. Oh, use it right there. It's right where I would do. Make it hold. It's not going to line up with my bit. So let's add a little more glue. It's fighting me. There's some more I'm doing wrong. But that's what I'm holding here for you. I'll use this now. Oh, it starts to move. Why? Why is it just me? This is I'm going to try to do it. And actually, I'm trying to open here. And it's just not open. At all. Let's glue up here. This room specifically uses the contact. Okay, I'm admitting defeat here because this should have become pretty, like on other things I've glued with this before. This should have taken hold by now. So something else is afoot here. Okay. It looks like it might actually just be melting plastic rather than combining the two. So that's not great. See, I don't know if you can tell that that's kind of blackened now. Before it was kind of a grayish color. So that's not what we wanted. All right. Plan B. Okay. Part B is a favorite of mine from my haunted house decorations. It's JB Weld, the 2-part epoxy. So, I always like to start with the black, this which is called steel. Let's get a little bit of So, man, this thing has been sitting in the garage for a while. It's been a little stubborn. There we go. Probably don't need a whole lot, but better to have more than you need than not enough. Okay. And the second part is the red part, which is the hardener. Once you mix this stuff together, this one, it's red on the label, the actual goop is kind of white. This is the stuff that will make it start kind of reacting once you mix it together. Good and mixed up, make kind of a grayish paste. You can see I've used this particular container a lot. This is actually the top of a plastic skull from Halloween. And I cut it off to make a candy slide back in 2020. It has served me well ever since in this capacity. Even after the candy slide got dismantled a few years ago. All right, now, we'll do that. We'll go back to our, be a little more generous with this stuff than the super glue, since we now know what we know. Oh, is that generous? No, it's a little thick. Use a little thin this time. Sorry for keeping that brush for so long. Probably need to do. All right, well, this stuff, this doesn't hold down well. But I'm gonna have to kind of spread it over the surface a bit. There's a second from it. I'm going to glue that on this thick. All right. Oh, and of course, turning over right, that's all. This was supposed to be easier. It didn't turn out. I promise 95 I've done this many times before. This happens to be awkward cheap. Okay, now I'm going to be in control of this particular. Straight all the way later. Come on. Now you've done this whole thing. Look at that. Take a little more on there. I'm going to have to be generous. Oh, as soon as I get where I want it, it does that again. And almost perfect. I'm going to flip everything all over again. It's going to be so messy. This might start getting sealed all. I'm just running the whole thing here. Okay. Stop spreading. Wrong stuff. You can't read. You send it down to the left. You're right, he doesn't get. Okay, let's see. I'm going to take this back down without any more issues. Nope. Alright, then you block it up. I'm just trying to completely cover the crack because I'm not going to fill the crack entirely. This will be incredibly strong when it does that. Alright. I'm going to get this on my clothes now. There's so much on my hands. Alright, I'll take the camera around and take this to the set. It's going to be a while. It's going to be over, I think. This one, I'm pull out any super bumpy pieces. Be noticeable. Yeah, it's okay now. Alright, how long is it anyways? I'm starting to see the seam. I don't want to see the seam. So we're just going to leave that probably overnight to set. We'll see how it looks in the morning, tomorrow, whenever. And hopefully that does it. All right, so not too terrible. I mean, yeah, I sanded it down as best I could. You know, it's not perfect. It's smoother on the back than it is on the front, but it's a little clumpy. That's okay, because we're not done here. Let's see, I know the colors don't match, and that's going to be okay, because you're not going to see that. I've got plans. You see, I was looking at an image from the recent restoration of Manos, and it was a close-up of Torgo and the staff, and I noticed that the head looked, well, not exactly like this. It kind of looked more like a cast iron, and you could see in the knuckles, on the inside of the palm, what looked kind of like rust. So I think this is the perfect opportunity to give it a little redeco try. Why not? First thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna have to rough it up a little, because elsewise this surface is probably too smooth. I'm gonna need the rougher brush. This surface is probably too smooth for the paint to apply to directly. So if this doesn't rough it up, I don't know what will. And it cut my finger. That's how rough this brush is. Might take it off of here. Control it. Yep, all these little bristles here get right into my thumb and thumb. Okay. I think that's wiped down enough. It's roughed up enough. Kind of dusty on my hand. So, what we're gonna do, I'm gonna spritz it down with a little bit of water. Just wipe off all of that dusty stuff that we just got on there. I kind of hoped it would be a little rougher than this, but we do what we can. It's a fairly smooth print. Okay, I'll get another towel real quick. One good dry, one more time. Get all that remaining water off. All right. So the reason I did that was so that the paint I'm going to use will stick. The paint I'm going to use isn't regular paint. So what I'm going to be using for this is a truck bed liner, specifically the one with the non-skid finish. I've used this before in some of my Halloween decorations to make a cheap plastic fence look a little wrought iron. So this should work perfectly for this. This is my last can, and it's about half full, so hopefully it's enough to cover. You know, you specifically want the non-skid finish because it adds that texture. They do make it as a smooth, which is not what we want. So, let's give this a go. It did get a little heavy in that first spray. Rotate that. I have to do this manually and get it on my hand. Probably should have started on the back So I could get a better coating there, or a better idea of where the coating was going to go. Turn it back around. Got my little fingerprints there. And I realize now the use of a black backdrop when I'm doing a black cloth, or a black backdrop when I'm doing a black spray, that's not the best choice. Sorry about that. Okay. And so, fingers. That is probably not as much texture as I would like. So we are going to add a little more. Sorry, I just kicked that. And well, we're going to do it. This brush right here is a little spent, stiff and whatnot, so I'm just going to kind of stipple, tap all over the places where it's kind of drying too smooth. Give it a little extra bit of texture. And if this goes right, the spaces you saw earlier where I put the filler in, the epoxy, should blend in pretty perfectly with this new texturing. Back. But still want to be consistent. I apologize to my very well leads out here. I did not have anything specifically addressed with this. But you are doing unlocking the originals. Necessity is the mother of invention. First thing on the side. Keep this in a little more. I don't want to dry too smooth. Once I get this hammer away, I'll zoom in here again. And you better look, hopefully, look it up. The good thing is this stuff's pretty thick. And it doesn't terribly long time. I'll say it's been raining the last couple days, every day, so you may not get any vegetable. Okay. I'd say that is pretty close to where I want it. So let me stop here and give you a look. All right, we're getting in close here. Again, hard to get the best angle on this with the lights and the angles I have to work with, but you can kind of see how that gives it somewhat of a cast iron look. Okay, so next step is let it dry. Once it gets at least dry enough to add a little more paint to, we're gonna mix up some rust color to match what we saw in that picture as best possible. So, okay, so it's been a couple days since the last time I painted this. Turned out pretty good. Had a storm roll in that had a chance of hail, so had to stop and rush and move stuff around. You'll notice I've taken the backdrop, the black plastic off the backdrop. That's because when I was spraying this with the trailer coating, the expectorant and an aerosol paint like that will actually melt this kind of foam when it reacts. It was probably far enough away that it wouldn't have been too much of a problem, but I may want to use this foam someday for a project, so there's that. Also have to apologize if there's any background noise. Apparently today my next door neighbor is getting a new roof put on. So wasn't expecting that when I started this, so we work with what we got. All right, let's put some paint on this thing. Okay, so to make my rust, I'm gonna mix it a few little acrylic paints. First of which is a antique copper paint. Next is a acrylic burnt umber. And the most surprising one is this neon blacklight orange paint.
The cool thing is about this one is that it will actually, the black light reactivity will still carry over once you've mixed them all together. So that's good. Start with the burnt umber because it's going to be the bulk of it. That is probably a lot more than I need. The metallic copper gives it just a little bit of a metal look. And of course the orange makes it really look like rust. Come on. There we go. Not a lot of that left. Oop, that is more than I meant. So I'm just gonna mix that up pretty good. One thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to do a straight up brush this on. It's too gloppy, so what I'll end up doing is scraping a lot of it off, and then I will just lightly go over it on the hand, what they call a dry brush, meaning that you get off as much of the wet paint as possible, and then you just kind of lightly go over it, which you'll see once I get over there to it with this paint. So let's go do that. All right, so in the photo, a lot of in the photo, the thumb is on the other side, so I have to deal with that. But a lot of the rust was kind of inside the hand knuckles, a little bit at the base, dripping down. Maybe a little on the thumb. We'll see how that looks. But like I said, we're going to start with just a little dry brushing. That's a little thick at the beginning, thicker than I wanted, but it's fine. We can deal with it. One thing I want to do is try to get it in between the knuckles so it looks kind of like it's running down there. And another thing I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of pat it away with this paper towel to just kind of remove any excess clumping from it, so we don't overemphasize the paint as the rust. Rather, we want it to kind of bring out the highlight of the texture that the automotive sealant brought in. I'm just going to drag it down to kind of give it a bit of a, drippy look to it. And this might emphasize the weld, the JB weld joints I put in a little more than expected, but nothing too terrible. All right, give it a little more down here around the base. A little more on the edges here. That's actually looking pretty good, pretty close to what I was hoping. Now, it would be a shame to do it on just the front and not the back, so let's go sides a bit. Okay. It's looking pretty good. I'm going to switch to part of the paint that's a little brighter in tone. At least I hope it's a little brighter in tone. Again, I'm just kind of wiping off as much as I can. But you gotta want to mix up the color tones because it's not gonna be all one color. It's in different stages of rusting, right? Okay, just gonna do a little more of that. Just a little one step quite a bit. All right, I'm gonna do one more thing. That is, gonna get another towel and just wet it down a little bit, just a little bit. Let's see if we can lighten up some of this, just a tad. Don't push too hard in, you might get you don't want to break anything. We're pulling off a little of that excess with this wet cloth. And maybe blending in a little better. All right, so here are the cloth. Again. All right, I don't want to do too much more with the wet cloth because it is starting to tear a little bit. I'm seeing some little specks of the actual paper on the hand, but for the most part, that's pretty much what I want it to look like. We'll have to let it dry and see how it looks, but yeah. All right, the final results. Pretty good. I think the master would approve.